Hello guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the MR2 build. So in today's episode we're going to be taking a look at the original HKS air filter that came with the car. So this has been removed, and for good reasons. So as you can see, this is actually the material from inside the air filter. I took this off because I did not want this getting sucked into the engine when I first started. So I took this down, sandblasted it, give it a fresh coat of lacquer, some black and some clear, get this looking almost factory new. And I've also bought a replacement air filter that'll go inside, so that should finish out nicely and that can be put back on the car. That's one thing we can tick off. I've also removed the wiper arms. So I removed these. Basically they look bad, but on the car they look terrible. When they're just like this they don't look too bad, but there's quite a lot of rust at the base and there's a rust at the ends. And when I got the car, these were just jammed in. In fact, one was jammed in, one was actually missing. It was in the front of the car. So these were actually just jammed in and they just fall straight out. So I've actually went out and bought the clips. There's like a hook that actually bolts into these two holes here, which in turn allows these to slide on and connect securely and correctly. So I will be putting on some brand new wiper blades, of course, because these are past it. In fact, yeah, this one here, it's actually broke. So how this passed an MOT, I'm not too sure. Because yeah, this car has actually got an MOT on it, surprisingly. It came with an MOT. Before we get sandblasting, I just thought I'd show you a test piece that I did. So this is the black that I chose, with primer, 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of black. And then I laid down some lacquer, and this is the effect the lacquer gives. Okay, so let's get this stripped down. So I probably should add that I don't actually like these. I don't mind them as a temporary filter. If I've got something I want to start, especially a small engine, and I've just did some work on it, and I just want to basically see if it's going to turn over, or if it's actually going to run for a short period of time. They're okay. They're not too bad, I guess, these, if you're going to use them in that kind of situation. However, if you're going to leave this outside in the elements for a year, this could potentially happen. Now, I don't know how long this has been in the car for, but I mean, would you risk it? It just breaks down to dust. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see this, but are you ready? That is just, it's almost like snow. You can crush it with your fingers. So quite literally, can you see that? So would you want to risk this going into your engine? Now for me, I've got a brand new air filter which has never been used. It's definitely brand new, it's sealed. So I'm going to run this for a few months, probably just, you know, the first few times I drive the car, just to get a feel of the car, just to see what I want to change on it. So I will use this for the time being. This came free with the car, obviously, and the air filter was like £5. So for a £5, it'll get me going down the road and it'll do the job for a short period of time. But would I put this in my car and leave it for a year? Not a chance, especially over winter if it's outside. So for me, I'll be driving this car in pretty much dry conditions. I won't be driving it in the rain or the snow. However, the previous owner may have been driving this car a lot in the rain, and obviously if this is pushed up right against the vent at the side of the car, that's going to be drawing in all that moisture, all that rain and what have you. So this would have been getting damp possibly on a daily basis, or at least a weekly, and not drying out properly to the point where it just rots away. I mean, this could have been in the car for 10 years for all I know. I honestly haven't got a clue how long it's been in there for. But for me, I'm going to put this new air filter in and use it for a few months and then swap it out for something better. But for the time being, it'll get us through and I'll get the car on the road and driving, and yeah, take it from there. Okay, so this is my blast cabinet. It's nothing special. It's just your typical Harbor Freight, eBay, Amazon kind of special blast cabinet. I've did a few upgrades to it. I won't go into them in this video. I might actually do a full video on this at one point, just explaining what I've done to it. It does perform really well. It's not professional standard, of course. It's definitely home, DIY, hobby grade, but for what I use it for, my needs, it's absolutely perfect. So, as you can see, the parts have been put in and they're ready to go. So the next step would be to power this machine on, get the air compressor hooked up and get blasting. So let's get to it. Okay, so that's both the wiper arms and the air filter housing fully sandblasted. So what I'll do now is I'll give it a rub down with some paper towels and some paint prep, just to get rid of any contaminants that might be in the metal. But after it's been sandblasted, it's usually pretty clean. You're not going to get much cleaner than being sandblasted. And I'll lay down a few coats of etch primer before laying down a couple of coats of black base coat. Okay, so it's next day and the paint has been curing overnight. I did come back in and hit this with a few coats of lacquer. I think it was 3 coats in total, and it's given it quite a nice shiny finish to it, which I'm quite happy with that. The inside I've just left with the original satin look, but the exterior is what you will see, and I think it looks quite nice. So with the air filter foam behind there, I think that'll stand out quite nicely. So what's left is the wiper arms. Now these wiper arms have turned out fantastically. I mean, they look pretty much brand new. And these are the attachments I was talking about. So rather than your traditional wiper where the blades would slide on, you actually have to fix these to the end, and it's this part here which the wiper blade slides onto. Now I was going to keep these satin black because I mean they do look really nice, however I'm worried about protection. Now this has got I think 2 to 3, maybe 3 layers of paint on, so it has got some protection. However, from stone chips and wear and tear, I don't want it scratching away and showing through again. So what I think I might do is give this part, the end part, and the arm itself just 1 or 2 very fine coats of lacquer, just to give a bit more protection, and hopefully no more rusting and no more chipping will occur. Okay, that'll do for these. So while these are drying, I think I'll take you back into the car and show you the fuel pump situation. So in the last video I kind of bypassed the fuel pump by jumping into the ignition barrel, which obviously is not the correct thing to do, and it's not the safest thing to do. So I'll show you what I found out in the back of the car. This is the rear harness, and this rear harness goes to the engine. This is the interior harness that comes from the dash. This plug here wasn't attached, and essentially this blue line here feeds the fuel pump, and this blue line here, which as you can see comes from the rear harness, is the power to the fuel pump. So this wasn't plugged in, which is why I wasn't getting power. However, the previous owner had, as you've seen, actually bypassed this. So I don't know if they didn't realise it wasn't plugged in, or if they plugged it in it wasn't working. I'm not too sure what was the logic of bypassing it, but I'm going to go back to the the original factory method, which is running this blue wire to this blue wire. Now essentially it looks a mess, and whoever put this in before, this is a factory connection, and then down here we have some sort of bodged, twisted connection, and then I try to think what's under this fitting here, this tape. It seems a bit unnecessary, but essentially all I need to do is have this wire run from here to this wire to join the two up. So what I'll do is I'll cut this wire here, cut this at this joint here, and I'll essentially just connect these two together to complete the circuit. Now this is the original bit from the turbo car, and as you can see, this bit of blue wire here at one point would have been attached to there, and these would have went elsewhere to the turbo harness, but this isn't needed. So technically I can probably disconnect this plug and wrap all these up out of the way, and I'll get this connected. And while I'm back here, I'll mention about this. So this here is the sensor for the door. So when the door opens, this tells the car the door's open, so the interior light comes on and the dash light comes on saying the door's open. This isn't attached. Now this should splice, well, this should connect into this harness, but it's missing. The fittings are missing. This harness here, sorry, the fittings are missing. But it's been lots of splicing, so I'm guessing someone has just removed it, thinking it wasn't required, or for whatever reason why, I have no idea. But what I'm going to do is reconnect this, and how I'm going to do that, the other end of this wire is actually attached to the other sensor on the other side of the car and the ground in the black, and I've run this wire across to the black side of here, and when I open the door the light comes on, so that makes it work again. So what I'm going to do is this red and white wire here, this is the wire that goes to the driver's side sensor. What I'm going to do is splice this wire into that and then run this direct to the switch, and in turn that'll make that switch work. So when the door opens, light comes on, the interior lights on the top will come on, and the dash light will also come on. Okay, so the fuel pump's installed and it's fully working. So rather than in the video I said I was going to disconnect this and tie up this side and then splice into this wire to connect up to this plug, I ended up just using the plug that was already coming from this and splicing that into the blue cable that was already from the rear harness. And basically now you have a plug that you can actually plug in and disconnect. So it's back to how it was from factory. But that is working perfectly fine now. We're getting power with the fuel pump. You can hear it priming. So yeah, the next step will be the door sensor. Okay, so the door sensor is installed and it's working. And I didn't record it because it did actually take some time, so it took a bit of messing about to figure out what was going on. So basically what I did is, this is the rear of the driver's side of the car, and this is what has the clip that goes to the driver's side door sensor. On this side there was nothing to clip into the door sensor, so what I did is followed the cables from the door sensor through the harness to the Y split. This is where it goes down the center console, and I literally just removed the wires. So as you can see, I've chopped off that wire here, which meant I had some cable going from here all the way to the door sensor. Now this door sensor was then transferred across, plugged into the passenger side door sensor, and then I ran that wire along the harness back to the same section. So on my new harness, if you look, it branches off. So on my harness I've got in the car, rather than the cable going from here to the driver's side, it branches, so it goes to the driver's side and it goes over to the passenger side. And then for the out of the switch on the door, so when you open the door, the switch goes in or out, closed open circuit. The out from that switch is actually grounded to the chassis. So when the door opens, it completes the circuit, it grounds the circuit out, which then triggers the door lights and the dome lights and the dash light. And that seems to work perfectly fine. So that is something else I can tick off the list and we can carry on moving forward. Okay, so we're now at a point where I'm ready to reassemble the air filter. What I'm going to do is just give this a quick clean and yeah, get back to you. Okay, so time to assemble. So nice and clean, a bit extreme. The parts washer, probably hand clean would have been okay, but I just want to make sure I didn't get any, you know, loose particles inside and getting drawn in the engine. It's the last thing you want. So I'll put the air filter inside the mesh housing and then install over the housing itself, and yeah. Yes, that's one complete HKS air filter, and I'm really happy how this turned out. Just a bit of time and effort, and we've took something that's rusty and ready for the trash, basically, to be, you know, I dare say almost looking brand new again. Now, unfortunately, in some cars, obviously this would be in a position where you could see it. In my case, this will actually be at the back of the engine and it will be facing this way. So it's a shame really that I won't be able to see this, but it'll do the job for the time being. Like, as I mentioned before, I'm not overly keen on these for short term, for a small engine, for something that's going to see a lot of indoor use or summer use. Yeah, I guess it'd be okay, but foam and the elements just don't generally mix. Now, in most engines, I guess you could say they're quite well protected because they're under the bonnet, and unless you go for a deep puddle or something, there's no reason why they should be getting wet. With the location of this in my car, which is what I don't particularly like, is this is facing right up against the vent. So rain, snow, basically anything that the front of your car hits, this air filter is going to get hit, hence why this is all rusty and the foam is all deteriorated. So I will need a better quality air filter, maybe something that's more protected, maybe a plastic one, or, you know, something other than this, because this will do good for the short term and it'll get the car running and driving, and it'd be fine over summer. And to be fair, I only drive my cars in summer anyway. I wouldn't be driving this in the snow or in the rain intentionally. However, you know, British weather, it could be sunny one minute and rain the next. But for the time being, this will be going back in the car, and at a later date we'll come back to it and probably replace it with something better. But for the time being, we're going to call this done. Okay, so now time to reassemble the driver and the passenger wiper arms. So for those who don't know, it's a D on the driver's side and a P on the passenger side. This is for the UK, or the right-hand drive version. The driver's side actually has this rubber tab that fits into the bottom. So the next thing is just install these into the tips of the arms. So these go in there like so. I've got some screws that go in, and these will hold these in place. It seems that the driver's side is a 20 and the passenger side is an 18. And a lot of people say there's no fixed size, which is strange. Now, I couldn't actually measure these because these weren't actually attached correctly, so it was difficult to kind of work out what size I should have. But reading online, a lot of people say you can go up to 20, so the passenger side technically can have 20 also, but I just played it safe and went with the standard 20 and 18. So we'll put these on now. It turns out you have to actually not have this attached to the arm, because you have to take this clip off, half feed it in, clip it in, and then before you push it down, you've got to reattach this cover. So it is a bit awkward, but with the next one I'm going to take this off, feed this through the actual blade itself first, then reattach this plastic cover lid, and then screw it back on, and then we'll be done. Okay, so the wiper arms are installed. Went pretty straightforward, no issues, and the only thing I did have to change was the bolts that held them down. I don't know who in the past has possibly tried to remove this or maybe put it on, but it's had a hammer or vice grips or something along the way, and it's totally lost its shape. It was a nightmare to get off, so I've changed them out for different bolts, and yeah, wiper blades are done, fully installed and ready to go. Yeah, and if you're curious, what I was doing in the video there was I was going at the windscreen with the razor blade, and what I was doing is just getting rid of all the dirt and debris that's built up in the car over the years. I mean, this car has been neglected for a long time. The windshield itself had like a sandpaper texture to it. Probably couldn't see it in the camera, but in person when you could feel it. So use a razor blade, some lubricant, go up and down, get it all off. Then I got the resin polish on a DA and just buff the windscreen basically, up, down, left, right, back and forwards a few times, and then buff it off. And yeah, and then applied some Rain-X just to finish the job off. Great stuff this. If you've not used it before, I highly recommend it. There's better stuff out there, but this stuff's really cheap and it lasts for years. So yeah, put some of that on. So yeah, the windscreen is fully ready to go. So wiper blades are fully installed for the first time, and the windscreen is nice and clean for the first time. Yeah, so I didn't get around to fitting this today, but I will do this at a later date. Probably do it when I do the oil change and the coolant change. So that's something to look forward to in the future. Also, I should mention the reason why I took the wiper cowl off is that I could clearly see underneath was just absolutely full of leaves and dirt and grime, and it was blocking the vents as a vent at either end. And when it rains, obviously the water goes in there and then rolls off to the side, but it was pooling. And in a car of this age, well, a car of any age really, you have standing water for such a long time, you start getting rust, and that's the last thing you want in an old car like this. So I just thought I'd take it off, give it a really good clean, flush it all out, make sure the drain holes are all okay, and yeah, seems to be okay now, and everything's back in place. So on that note, I think we'll leave it there today, and in the next video I'm probably going to start cleaning up the interior, such as the dash and the door cards and basically all the plastic trim. My garage is absolutely full of all the interior of this car, so in the next episode I'm probably going to clean all that down and hopefully start putting it back in the car. So yeah, cheers guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.